Happy New Year and welcome to your January 2022 horoscope. My name is Cailin and today I'm going to be covering the major transits for the month ahead using tropical astrology and the whole sign system. I strongly recommend that you watch your horoscope for your ascendant, sun and moon sign, but having said that, I would start with your ascendant sign if you're only going to watch one today. Now, before I get into your reading, I just wanted to let you know that my 2022 yearly horoscopes are available for purchase. So you can purchase your individual horoscope using the link in the description box below. Once again, I would recommend that you watch for your ascendant, sun and moon sign, but if you're only going to purchase one, I would start with your ascendant sign. So these horoscopes are about an hour and a half in length, but you can also purchase the 12 pack, which is over 18 hours of footage. And now let's dive into your horoscope. Hi Cancer, Sun, Moon and Risings. Welcome to your January 2022 horoscope. Before I get into your reading today, I just wanted to pull an animal spirit totem card to see what energies are going to be with you for the month ahead. We've got the cosmic egg. So obviously you can see a snake wrapped around an egg here. So snakes are known for shedding their skin and they are often associated with themes of death and rebirth. And given that the snake is wrapped around an egg, in my opinion, this card is speaking to you giving birth to something new, but you're being very protective over it. So this is really about you not being too overly protective to the point where you don't want to release some kind of new creative project into the world or some sort of new idea or a business venture. So I don't want you guys to be too bogged down with what other people are going to think, especially because snakes have fangs and a lot of them are venomous. This is about you not taking criticism to heart. But now let's get into the horoscope. We're going to have Venus being retrograde for almost the whole month of January and Venus stationed retrograde on the 19th of December. So I did a little segment on this in my December videos, but I wanted to mention it with you guys, especially because Venus being retrograde in Capricorn in your 7th house is not something that should be glazed over. Essentially, the whole month of January will be about you reevaluating your one-on-one relationships and redefining your self-worth and how much you value certain relationships and connections. Now, on the 29th of December, we saw Jupiter re-enter the sign of Pisces, and I did not cover this in my December forecast, so we're going to go into it in depth in this horoscope. Jupiter spent about 10 weeks in Pisces between mid-May and the end of July in 2021. So if you cast your mind back to whatever you commenced around that point in time, we will be basically revisiting those themes for the first 4 months of 2022 while Jupiter is in Pisces in your 9th house. Jupiter will enter the sign of Aries on the 10th of May and it will be in Aries in your 10th house until the end of October when it re-enters Pisces for another 2 months. So in a nutshell, Jupiter will spend 6 months in Pisces in your 9th house. So the 9th house is all about high knowledge, wisdom, education, travel, and our belief systems. And Jupiter is the planet which naturally rules over Pisces as well as Sagittarius, which means that Jupiter rules your 9th house and your 6th house. So with that being said, there is going to be such an immense focus on education, travel, what your beliefs are, whether you are religious or spiritual or an atheist. It's really going to be about you exploring these beliefs and understanding how these beliefs are shaping your everyday reality. And I'm saying this because the 9th house is connected to our long-term vision for the future, and it's all about seeing the bigger picture. Interestingly, the 6th house, which Jupiter also rules, is really about the day-to-day details and our duties and our responsibilities. So with Jupiter here in your 9th house, this is going to see many of you Cancerians pursuing some form of higher knowledge or a higher education. Even if you are not studying in a traditional format or a traditional setting, Jupiter being in the sign that it rules, which is Pisces, and being in the house that it is naturally associated with, which is the 9th house, indicates that you Cancerians are going to go on a very, very steep learning curve. But because Jupiter is trining your moon, sun, or ascendant, this is going to come to you very, very naturally. So you're going to be absorbing all of this information, and a lot of it is probably going to come via visions that you have, or via further studies that you are pursuing, or you could actually have a number of downloads of information while you were traveling abroad. Now, with Jupiter in your 9th house, this can see you becoming more religious or becoming more spiritual, or you may even have an interest in becoming a religious figure or a spiritual figure in society. And that is because Jupiter is associated with all kinds of teacher figures and respected figures, and certainly when we see Jupiter in the 9th house and in the sign of Pisces, we think of spiritual gurus, yoga masters, people who have mastered some form of spirituality. Or with Jupiter in the 9th house, this could see you becoming someone who dedicates their life to their faith. And this is doubly emphasized by the fact that Jupiter rules over the 6th house, which represents the everyday workings of your life and the duties and responsibilities that you are taking on. Now, if we're looking at the more practical functions of Jupiter being in the 9th house, this can indicate some kind of marriage taking place or a religious or spiritual ceremony. And that is because the 9th house rules over all kinds of religious ceremonies, and Jupiter is associated with these things as well. Now, this can see some of you Cancerians falling pregnant. And you may think, why? Jupiter's in the 9th house. What does the 9th house have to do with falling pregnant? Well, Jupiter in the 9th house is forming a trine between your 1st house as a Cancer sun, moon, or rising, and your 5th house, which represents falling pregnant. Now, Jupiter in the 9th house can also indicate you meeting a romantic partner. And once again, we're applying this same school of thought here because Jupiter is trining your sun, moon, or ascendant. It's trining the 5th house, and the 5th house is associated with romance. So with Jupiter being in the 9th house, if I was to hypothesize as to what this individual may be like in nature, well, they could be a Pisces, they could be a Sagittarius, or this person could be a spiritual or religious figure. They could be a teacher. You could meet them while you were studying, or they could be an avid traveler, or you could meet them while you were traveling or while they are visiting the country that you live in. But moving along, on the 2nd/3rd of January, we are going to see a new supermoon in Capricorn at 12 degrees, and this will take place in your 7th house. Now, we need to look at what other aspects this new moon is making. It will be conjunct Venus, which will be retrograde at 22 degrees Capricorn. It will also be conjunct Pluto at 25 degrees Capricorn. And this new supermoon will actually be making an exact semi-sextile to Saturn, which is the ruler of the new moon. And we're also going to have Mercury at 0 degrees. So that's Saturn and Mercury both in Aquarius in your 8th house. Now, new moons indicate a new chapter starting somewhere in our lives. I'm loving the fact that this is occurring in your 7th house because this is actually backing up what I've just said about a new romance taking place. And that is because the 7th house represents our long-term committed relationships. So on one level, this can see a new romantic relationship forming. And I'm saying this because we've got the 7th house activated and the 5th house, and that is because Pluto rules over your 5th house in Scorpio. Now, it doesn't just have to be romantic though. This could be a new friendship forming, or this could be a new business partnership starting. Now, the fact that Venus is retrograde here leads me to think that you've either tried to initiate this relationship once before or a few times before. And again, it doesn't have to be romantic. This could be a friendship or platonic. Or perhaps you broke up or had a falling out with this person, and now you are reigniting this friendship or this alliance, and basically it will have a much, much stronger foundation this time around thanks to this semi-sextile to Saturn in your 8th house. Now, if you are in a relationship already, but it's being kind of casual, this can see you forming an exclusive relationship. And this is thanks to the nature of Capricorn, the 7th house, and this semi-sextile to Saturn. Now, even if you are in a more committed relationship, this can see you getting proposed to, or it could be you initiating the proposal. And again, the 7th house is connected to marriage, and so is the 9th house. So really, we can see January being a really pivotal time for committing to a relationship further. Now, even if you are in a business partnership with another person, this can see you forming some kind of exclusive relationship or alliance with this other person. So essentially, this can be ruling out other competitors. Now, the 7th house also represents contracts. So perhaps you are signing contracts with another individual, and this is emphasized by the fact that we've got Saturn and Mercury in your 8th house, which represents mutual resources. And of course, Saturn represents giving longevity to something. And of course, Pluto itself represents mutual resources. And we've got Pluto ruling over your 5th house, which represents your speculative investments, and Venus ruling over your 11th house, which represents your salary and investors. So even in a non-romantic sense, some form of commitment can be taking place with another person, and there can be a positive financial result of this relationship or of this partnership being formed. Now, on the 14th of January, we're going to see Mercury station retrograde in Aquarius at 10 degrees in your 8th house. Whenever Mercury is retrograde in the 8th house, there can be significant changes that come through with your joint resources with other people. So essentially, this could be anyone that you share a bank account with, anyone that you have joint investments with, and of course, this can represent the assets or the resources that you share with your business partner or with your spouse. And also, this can be looking at the division of your assets or of your finances with a former business partner or with your former significant other. Now, with Mercury being retrograde here, you may be seeing an astrologer again, or a tarot reader, or someone who works in the occult or spiritual industry. And the same can be said for going back to see your therapist or your psychologist or your psychiatrist, or literally anyone who helps you to dig beneath the surface and try to get to the root cause of self-sabotaging behaviors. And this is especially the case when it comes to Mercury ruling over your 12th house, which already indicates self-sabotaging behaviors. With Mercury ruling over your 3rd house, which represents your communications and your perspective and essentially your mentality, this can see you having an enormous attitude shift when it comes to the relationships that you have with siblings, friends, relatives, co-workers, and with Mercury ruling over your 3rd house, which represents self-made worth, this can see you putting a lot of attention and energy into discovering where creative blockages lie, or how to reframe your attitude to creating new content, or to starting your own business, or expanding your own business. Now, with Mercury being retrograde in your 8th house, this can see you transforming your relationships with your siblings or with your friends or with your relatives. So it really goes beyond reframing how you perceive these individuals, and that is because the 8th house is the house of transformation. So essentially, you can bury the hatchet once and for all if you've had a falling out with another person, or you may actually be re-establishing your relationship with one of these individuals. And if you have been estranged with one of these people, you may actually reform or re-establish your relationship altogether to the point where somehow you've rebuilt this relationship. Now, the 8th house is connected to taxes, debts, and inheritances. So if you have been waiting on a financial payment to come through from one of those aforementioned things, and it's been delayed time and time again, you can actually receive it while Mercury is retrograde in your 8th house. Now, on the 17th/18th of January, depending where you live in the world, we're going to see a full moon in Cancer take place at 27 degrees in your 1st house. Now, full moons are always going to impact you very, very strongly, Cancer. And that is because the moon is a luminary that rules you. This full moon in Cancer will be one of the most impactful non-full moon eclipses of the whole year. And this is because it is in your sign and it is in almost exact opposition with Pluto in Capricorn in your 7th house. And add to the mix that Venus will be retrograde in Capricorn at 13 degrees in your 7th house. And really, we've just got a very emotional time for you guys. But I see this as being a positive thing because Venus rules over your 11th house, which represents your long-term goals and dreams. And it also rules over your salary and your long-term investments. So this full moon in Cancer in your 1st house can see you completing some kind of huge life goal that you've tried to do repeatedly. And I'm saying this because Venus is retrograde. Now, the last time that Venus was retrograde in the sign of Capricorn was in January 2014. So if you cast your mind back to that point in time, and if you look at some kind of goal that you tried to initiate then, well, you may actually successfully fulfill this goal around the 17th or the 18th of January, give or take 2 weeks. Now, for those of you who are pregnant, this can see you actually giving birth. And I'm saying this because we've got the full moon being opposite Pluto, and Pluto rules over your 5th house, which represents children, and Venus rules over your 4th house, which represents family. And Pluto also represents giving birth. So if you guys are pregnant now, and let's just say, that you're due at the end of the month, so at the end of January, well, I think that baby's gonna come a little bit earlier, which is exciting. And if that's you, congratulations. Now, on a different level, with Venus ruling over your 4th house and being retrograde, I see this as being a change in your living circumstances. So someone may be moving in, someone may be moving out. And again, if you're pregnant, this is like bringing a baby home. On a different level, this full moon in Cancer in your 1st house can see there being the end of a relationship with someone that you live with, a friend, a family member, or even a romantic partner. Now, just remember that this is a general reading, so this will affect everyone differently. Even if none of the above is applying to you, this will still be a very emotional time for you, so just be gentle with yourselves. Now, on the 18th of January, we are going to see the North Node and the South Node entering the signs of Taurus and Scorpio respectively. So Taurus will be transiting your 11th house, while Scorpio will be transiting your 5th house. Now, the last time that we saw the North Node and the South Node in Taurus and Scorpio was 19 years ago. And just as a general rule of thumb, the North Node will always bring something new to the house that it transits, and the South Node will always dissolve something in the house that it is transiting. And the North Node and the South Node will be in your 11th and 5th houses for 18 months from the 18th of January through till the middle of July in 2023. So let's take a look at the North Node being in Taurus in your 11th house. I see this as being a very fortuitous transit because the 11th house is one of the money houses in astrology. It is considered to be the house of popularity, and this can see you essentially making tons of new friends, lots of new acquaintances, lots of new business connections, and the 11th house represents our long-term goals and dreams. And the North Node, otherwise known as Rahu, carries the energy of being extremely ambitious. So with the North Node transiting your 11th house, this is really about there being no limit to what you can dream for your life. And really, this can see you becoming super ambitious and motivated. So this can see you actually having a rise in status when it comes to these long-term goals and dreams. If you have a social media account, this can see that account blowing up in popularity. So lots of new followers, lots of new subscribers. And again, even if you are not in social media, If you've just been looking for a new group or a new community or literally just a new friendship circle, the North Node transiting your 11th house can bring that to you. Now, this can also see there being an increase in your salary, or a new stream of passive income may be introduced over the course of the next 18 months. Now, the downside of having the North Node in the 11th house can be you experiencing a lot of peer pressure from acquaintances or friends who are quite materialistic in nature. And that is because Taurus, at its lowest vibration, can already represent materialism, but the North Node has this insatiable energy to it, and it can be quite hedonistic and overly indulgent. So with the North Node transiting your 11th house, this can indicate that your friends may be a bad influence on you, or they may be just leading you to have more materialistic priorities rather than more spiritual priorities and values. Now, lastly, with the North Node transiting your 11th house, this can see you becoming overly fixated and obsessed with your ambitions and with your goals for the future. Now, with the South Node in your 5th house, this can see your romantic love interest becoming more spiritual. Or if you have children, they may be becoming more spiritual in nature. Now, the 5th house represents our creative gifts and talents, and the South Node, otherwise known as Ketu, can represent mastery over a certain skill or talent. So this can see you discovering how to channel your creative gifts and talents, and you may produce some wonderful works of a creative or artistic nature. Now, this can also see you achieving huge success with regard to owning your own business, and this can be done by putting in very little effort because you're learning the art of detaching and letting go from requiring a certain outcome to take place. Now, on the downside, this can see you becoming quite apathetic towards goals and hobbies that you used to enjoy. Worst case scenario is that you may have to close down your business, or you may become quite, once again, apathetic towards your business and you just don't care for it anymore. Now, on the 24th of January, Mars is going to enter the sign of Capricorn, which means it will be transiting your 7th house. Mars rules over your 5th house, which is Scorpio, and with it transiting your 7th house, this is another big indicator for a romantic love interest to enter your life, or for a committed relationship to take off. Now, on a different level, this can see you forming a new business partnership or relationship. Worst case scenario, with Mars being in your 7th house, you could be fighting with your business partner, fighting with a friend, your lover, your spouse, or literally clients or anyone that you do business with or that you have a one-on-one relationship with. Of course, we are going to have a lot of activity in your 7th house, and that is because on the 25th of January, Mercury will retrograde from Aquarius in your 8th house back into Capricorn in your 7th house, and between the 25th of January and the 29th of January, we're going to have Mars in your 7th house, Mercury retrograde in your 7th house, and Venus will be retrograde in Capricorn in your 7th house as well. Venus will be stationing retrograde on the 29th of January, so that's why I'm flagging this 4-day period of intense activity in your one-on-one relationships. So you can expect some huge changes to take place within your one-on-one relationships, within your business partnership, with your clients, and certainly with your relationship with your significant other. Now, it could just be that your significant other is going through some huge changes pretty much around the end of January. But, this is a great period of time for you to get organized, reevaluate these connections, and renegotiate your contracts with other people. And so, Cancer, that's all I have for you for January 2022. If you want to purchase your 2022 yearly horoscope, you can do so by clicking in the link in the description box below. If you enjoyed this horoscope, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content on this channel, please hit the subscribe button. Enjoy your month ahead, and I will see you guys next time.